Hi, my name is Irina. I'm a UK-based illustrator behind the brand of Bizime Studio. I teach online classes, make my own brushes for Procreate, and give away lots of free Procreate stuff, so make sure you subscribe and follow. In this tutorial, I'll be featuring my brand new collection, Winter Imaginarium, which is packed with various Procreate assets, brushes, coloring pages, palettes, and more. And the best part, you get a 30% off discount with the code WINTERLOVE on my website. If you're still thinking of buying the whole collection, you can try a mini taster set. Simply go to the freebies section of my website and download it for free. In this tutorial, we'll make this super cute robin card. I'll show you how to print it, cut it, so you have a lovely illustration that you can use as a greeting card, a gift tag, or you may even want to use it as a separate gift for your friends and family this Christmas. So grab your iPad, Apple Pencil, something hot to drink, and let's begin. So for this class, you will need an iPad with Procreate installed in it, and you will need an Apple Pencil. My iPad, I use iPad 6th generation. It's an iPad Pro, and it's 12.9 inches. And my Apple Pencil is 2nd generation. That's basically in terms of hardware and software. And what additional resources you will need. So if you've purchased my Winter Imaginarium set, you will definitely need some brushes from there and some materials and resources. Don't worry, there are so many of them, but you won't get lost, I promise you, because I will talk you through every single brush I'm going to use, and you will be able to easily find these brushes in the set. If you're still thinking about getting the set, or you're just here for a nice tutorial of a cute robin, which is absolutely great, thank you so much for that. You can download the taster, the mini set, from the main set Winter Imaginarium from my website. So you just go on the website and click download. And it contains all the resources that you will need for this tutorial. Also, if you intend to print a card in the end, you will need a printer. The printer I use is HP NV6020E. It's a very basic printer that I ordered from Amazon a number of years ago. It does the job for me. It prints great stickers, little cards. However, of course, if you want to go for something more professional, if you intend to sell your prints or stickers or whatever, I would probably recommend to go for something a little bit more substantial. But for me, this one has worked fine for many years. And you will need paper. So I would say that probably normal printer paper, like cartridge paper, is too thin for a card. So I personally use quite thick paper. So there are 2 sheets here. So it's a white card. It is slightly thicker than normal printer paper. However, it makes huge difference. The card actually looks like a card printer. I'll give you also the specs where you can buy it. I think I ordered mine from Amazon, and I'm gonna link it down below in case you want to purchase it too. So yeah, that's all. That is all the tools and materials you will need for this tutorial. So what we're going to begin with? We're going to begin with creating a new canvas. Our card is going to be A5 paper size, which is 148 millimeters by 210 millimeters. So let's create a new canvas, and just pay attention to the settings, because it's important that it's high resolution for print if you intend to print it in the end. So on my iPad, I'm going to click this icon, and it creates a new canvas that we're going to be using for our card. So you see this interface, and what you can do. You can see that the units are set to pixels by default, but I suggest that you change it to millimeters, because the size of the A5 paper in millimeters for now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a canvas. So width, I'm going to add 148, and height is going to be 210. So that's the dimensions of the paper that we will need for the card for printing. Again, if you intend to print the card either at home, or if you're going to send it to the printers to print larger number, make sure that DPI, the resolution of the image, is set to at least 300 dots per inch. You see, like, maximum layers is 237. I can tell you right now that we will not need as many layers as that. That's why I can safely change the DPI of my canvas to, let's say, 500. And maximum layers 83, and that's more than enough. So the higher the resolution is, obviously, the better your color's gonna come out in the printer, especially if you're gonna order to print your card with a professional printer. And I'm gonna just ignore these things. I can change the name of my card, of my canvas. Let's call it Robin Card. And I'm going to click create. So here's my card created. The foundation of my card, it's the canvas, and that's precisely what we need. The next step is we're going to place the textured canvas on top of this artboard. If you have a full set of Winter Imaginarium, the canvas we're going to be using is called wi_canvas4.jpg. And if you're just using the mini tester, you will just use the one that's provided in the set. So depending on where you saved it, I saved mine in the photos. What I'm going to do, I'm going to click this French icon, I'm going to click add, and I'm going to insert a photo. If you saved, obviously, your files in your iCloud drive, you'll be inserting a file and bringing the canvas from the relevant folder. So in my case, it's insert a photo, and I'm gonna stretch the canvas to cover my entire working area. And I don't know if you can see on the camera, it's quite a nice textured canvas, imitating like a mixture of watercolor and recycled paper. You can see these little specks. Let's try and scribble on top of it. It's not the way we're going to be using this canvas in this tutorial, but I'm just going to quickly show you one of the ways you can utilize my texture canvases. So, for example, if you add a new layer on top of it, and let's say we'll use Winter Imaginarium brush called Brandy Mix. It does not come with the mini set for this tutorial, but it's one of the brushes in the main set. And let's choose the color. So you see, you draw on top of it, and you already get quite a nice effect. But if you play around with blending modes, you can see the texture of the paper coming through, and the brush itself quite textured, so you can achieve quite interesting effects. Right. So let's delete this layer because it's just another way of using canvases, like keeping it underneath all the layers, and your painted layers, you just play around with blending mode. In our case, what we're gonna do, first of all, we're gonna change the background color because our card is gonna be sort of like, it's gonna imitate recycled paper. So I'm gonna click on the color palette, and in the palette that I provide for this tutorial, mini palette, I'm going to choose the very first swatch, and that's going to be the color of my palette. You can see it changed because this layer of the canvas is quite thick. It's opaque, it overlaps the canvas, but look what's going to happen. I'm going to change the blending mode to linear burn. You can play around with opacity, but I will keep mine on max because I think that's just the best effect. So you see what happens? We now got a really nice paper canvas imitating recycled paper. And now I'm going to create a new layer and drag it in between our textured layer changed to linear burn blending mode and the background color. A little tip for you, what I would also recommend that you do, I would lock the textured layer just in case, so you don't accidentally draw on it, because been there guys, done that, painted, drew on the layers that I was not supposed to paint and draw on, and in the end it was such a mess that especially if you work for a client, it would just sometimes literally double your time on working on an illustration if you mess up layers. That's why I can't emphasize enough, always keep your layers tidy, always keep an eye, always double check on which layer you are working on at the moment, and store the layers that you don't need away, and lock the ones that are not absolutely to be touched. Hope that makes sense. Right, so from now on, we will be building our stack in between these two layers, our background and our texture. So the next step is we're gonna stamp our robin as a sketch. So in our mini set, we're gonna choose the brush, the stamp brush called Hopeful Robin. And the color we're gonna be using is any dark color from the palette. I'm going to use this second swatch of the dark color, and I'm going to stamp the robin in the middle of the canvas. And next, obviously, I'm going to stretch it because it's going to be quite big. I'm going to stretch it to approximately like what's maybe even like around 50% of the canvas. I'm gonna put it in the middle. And remember guys, it's always like when you make an illustration for a card and when you work with specific formats of the paper, I would recommend that you start with bigger. And once you flatten the layers, once you've backed up your illustration, you can always play around with size. You can reduce the size to like scale it down to the size you want. However, if you start small, stretching the illustration will result in loss of quality. That's why make it just big and comfortable for you to work on. If you've done my tutorials before, you probably know that I always say that the sketch itself is a guideline for me. I'm not going to be using this very sketch for my final illustration. And that's why I'm going to reduce the size of it, oh sorry, not the size, the opacity of it to like around 17%, so I can barely see. The reason why so opaque, why so transparent, because if it's too opaque, if it's too bright, it just changes the look of the illustration. Because in case your style is the darker outline of your illustration, by all means go for it. But I'm going to be showing you the way I usually do it. So I would reduce it, like see, like even below 10%, so I can still see. It's quite pale. I don't know, I hope you can see it on the screen, but it's not like bright enough to interfere with the entire style of my robin. And basically what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna now color my robin in, as simple as that. So for that, I'm gonna create a new layer. I'm gonna drag it beneath the, you know what, I'm gonna lock the sketch as well because I'm not gonna use it. And on the new layer, I'm gonna start coloring in the robin's body. For that, in our free mini set, we will be using the brush called Winter Spice. It's a solid brush, so you will not need the additional sort of like underlay of your illustration this time. And the colors I'm going to use are, I'm going to start with probably with this color. This is the third swatch from the left on the top row. And let's see how, yeah, perfect. So I'm going to increase the size of the brush with 100% opacity because I want it to be opaque. I don't want it to be see-through this level layer. So I'm going to start coloring in. But again, if you've done my tutorials before, you probably know that the way I color in, I like blending different colors. So the illustration looks a little bit more sort of like interesting because color transitions always make it look nicer. I'm not worried about staying inside the lines because I keep in mind that, for example, the wing and the breast of my robin, they are going to be new layers on top of the robin's body, so I'm not going to be particularly precious about staying in the lines. So I color different patches here and there with this color while I left some areas uncolored because I'm going to take a different color. This is the a brownish swatch in the middle of the top row. It's darker, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of darker patches here and there. My robin's body. And finally, I'm going to use this goldish yellowish color, which is the fourth from the left in the top row. And I'm just going to add literally tiny bit, and I'm going to properly mix it in because I don't want it to be that bright. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to blend the colors in using the smudge tool. And for that, I'm going to use same brush called Winter Spice. However, I'm going to reduce the opacity a little bit, maybe to 75%. And I'm going to reduce the size to around 40%. And I'm going to start blending, mixing the colors together. I think I mentioned it in one of my previous tutorials that how to blend. If you start blending from this orangey color, the smudge tool is gonna spread the orange color onto the nearby color. But if you start blending on the brownish area, obviously naturally it's gonna spread the color from darker to lighter. So in my case with this robin, I want this like brighter ochre color to be the least dominant. That's why I'm not gonna blend staying on that color. I'm just gonna spread these brownish colors on top of this lighter color to almost make it disappear, but not quite. See, like leaving the areas nice, and still you see, still you can see like little light patches. Same here. See, staying on this, not on this, but on this, I'm just gonna spread the colors on top of this ochre color. So mostly the body of my robin is gonna be brown, mostly. As always, if you want to clean it up a little bit, grab your eraser tool. I would usually use the same brush as I use for painting. Just, oops, too big, reduce the size. And I'm just gonna tidy the edges a little bit. But to be honest, in my particular case, there is no strict rule for that. Very often I would leave the edges of my character quite fluffy. I really like fluffy. And that's pretty much it. That's the robin's body done. Let's do the robin's breast. On the new layer, with the same brush, Winter Spice from the mini set, or if you've got a full set, it's in the main set, Winter Spice. I'm gonna now paint robin's breast. The color I'm gonna use is this fourth from the right on the top row, and the one next to it, like deeper red. So let's start with the lighter one. And I'm just gonna gently color in using the same principle as I used with the robin's body. I'm just gonna color in patches here and there, like so. And this time I'm gonna grab the color swatch right next to it with the same brush, Winter Spice. I'm gonna fill the rest, making it nice and bright, and let's mix the colors together. If you want it to be a little bit deeper, spread mostly the darker color of red. And I feel like tidying it just a touch with the eraser tool. That's it. Now let's do the wing. And the wing will consist of different layers, multiple layers. So I'm going to create a new layer and I'm going to fill it in with very dark color, so it's in the contrast of the rest of the bird. And the color I'm going to use is this deep red. It's the second from the right on the top row. Fill it with color. Now I'm going to create a new layer and clip it as a clipping mask on top of my wing. And I'm going to use, with the same brush, Winter Spice. I'm going to use this bright yellowish color that we used for the body. But this time I'm just going to create something like this on top of the wings, on top of the wing, imitating the shorter layer of feathers of our bird. And I'm just going to color it in like that. Another layer, clipping mask. This time it's going to be darker layer, I'm gonna use this very deep mulberry color somewhere in the middle of the top row, and with the same brush I'm gonna create this sort of like 3-petal decorative part of my wing of the robin, looking like a flower. Let's make it even more elaborated. I'm going to create a new layer clipping mask, and this time I'm going to use this lighter color, like pinkish. See this one on the very bottom row, the very first one, with the same brush. I'm just going to draw 3 petal-like shapes. On top, and maybe here something like maybe a wee love heart type thing, just to make it like this, give it this folk look. And finally, the main sort of like shape type I'm gonna do is in the long feathers with the same pink color I've just used on top of this. Look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a new layer on top of our very first dark wing, the base of it, and I'm gonna reduce the opacity of my brush to maybe it's 60 something %, and I'm gonna just draw longer feathers on the wing, just like that, pressing the brush gently so it's got this nice fluffy edge. And there you go. We will do a little bit more work on everything. However, as main shapes, I'm quite happy with it right now. I would recommend grouping the wing layer. You can rename it, call it wing if you like. And finally, I'm going to create my bird's tail. I think I'm going to create it underneath the wing layer because it's kind of underneath. And I want it to be a contrast to the rest of my bird. So the color I'm going to use is the second from the left in the middle row. So I'm going to increase the opacity to 100% of my Winter Spice brush. And I'm just going to fill the tail with this like nice orange, bright ochre orange color. And let's add again a few details just to make it a little bit more special. So I'm going to add a new layer, add this clipping mask, and I'm just going to add maybe this, like using this brown color in the middle. I'm going to just add this like type of bigger feathers. Again, like petal shapes, similar to what we used for our wing. And I'm going to add another layer, again as a clipping mask, and this time the color I'm going to use is again this pink in the very bottom first swatch on the left. I'm going to create this kind of like shorter set of feathers, maybe even like a little bit more dense. And finally let's add little cheek. Also let's put the tail in the same group. And adding a new layer, I'm gonna choose this, probably this one is the fourth color from the left in the middle row. That's gonna be the bird's eye. It's pinkish, but it's sort of like quite light. You can make it white if you want. So we just color in the eye. Clipping mask to the eye white, and let's create an eyeball. I'm gonna make the eyes of my robin brown. So I'm gonna choose this nice brownish color, and I'm just gonna color in this circle inside the eye. Now I'm gonna create a new layer, and choosing this brighter pink color, which is the third from the left, I'm gonna paint my robin's cheek, just this pink circle, nothing more. And on the new layer, I'm going to paint my bird's beak. So for the beak, I'm going to use this ochre color from the left, first from the left on the top row. And that's going to be the top part of my robin's beak. And on the same layer, the bottom part will be darker ochre, which is the second swatch from the left in the middle row. And I'm just going to color in the bottom part. I'm just going to grab the eraser tool and tidy just a tiny bit the beak. And let's maybe put all this, the cheek, the eye, and the beak in the separate group. You can call it face. And finally, new layer, let's draw the legs. For the legs, again, like whatever color you prefer, I'll probably use this lightish one. And the legs are literally gonna be 2 sticks and little toes. So that's basically the base for our bird is prepared. So now our robin is ready, but it's looking a tiny bit flat. So let's bring the colors up. Let's add more enhancement of our colors. That's the way I call it usually. And by the way, at this stage, I think I'm just going to get rid of my sketch layer, unlock and delete it so it doesn't interfere anymore with my illustration, because I've got the main shapes already. I can see that they've been colored in, so that's quite enough. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add a little bit deeper colors to my robin, and I'm going to start with its body. So the very bottom layer where we've colored in our robin's body, we're going to create a new layer and add it as clipping mask. And let's change the blending mode right away to multiply. The brush I'm going to use is the same Winter Spice brush. The reason why I decided to include it in the mini set, in the mini taster of the collection, is because this brush is so versatile. It can be used as a shader, it can be used as a filler, and even sketcher or for adding smaller details. So in this particular case, I'm going to increase the size to 100%, and I'm going to reduce the opacity to probably like around 20%, so it's barely visible. And the color I'm going to use is this nice cocoa brown color in the middle of the top row. And what's important, use a very gentle touch when you add deeper color. And I'm just going to add a little bit of a deeper color here and there. Just a little bit, see on the robin's back. So when I press it gently, see, it can reveal this lovely texture of the canvas without overpowering the initial colors of ours that we've created at the beginning. So you see, I'm just going to add a tiny bit of darker colors. And I might just want to reduce the opacity of the layer to around 50-odd%, just so it's not too dark. And let's now add a little bit of lighter color. Create a new layer, add this clipping mask. I would keep it on normal blending mode with the same Winter Spice brush, with the same settings. I'm just going to take this sort of like pinkish beigey color. It's the last swatch in the middle row. And I'm just going to add a little bit of lighter area. Just making the color a tiny bit more interesting. And while I'm here, see, I can see like the tiny unevenness of the edge. So I'm going to grab my eraser too. I'm just going to clean it up just a tiny bit, nothing, not trying to be a perfectionist, just a little bit here and there. Right, now let's move on to the robin's breast. I can see that it needs cleaned up a little bit in terms of the edge, so I'm going to use the eraser and I'll just clean it up a little bit here and there. Again, nothing, not trying to make it perfect, just trying to make it slightly smoother, or make it fluffy. Whatever you want to do, just stay true to yourself, be creative. And let's add a little bit of color depth to the robin's breast. So let's create a new layer, clipping mask. Let's change the blending mode to linear burn just for a change. A winter spice brush, let's keep the settings the same, size maximum, opacity very low. And let's see how this color is gonna work, like the first one in the middle row. You see like a little bit of darker areas here and there. And for now, I think I'm just gonna add a little bit of lighter color as well, of course. So clipping mask. So basically you can see the pattern here. So we've created the base of the color, and then we add deeper color using darker blending mode, multiply, linear burn, color burn, see what works best. And the next layer we add lighter color. It creates this lovely color transition. I really love using my illustration. And I encourage you to experiment, because it's just like the possibilities of Procreate are endless. And you can easily cancel your move, as opposed to traditional mediums where you kind of like only can try again to try different blending types, etc. So back to the robin's breast. So we've created this darker, deeper colors. Now let's create lighter ones using winter spice brush with the same settings. And I think I'm gonna add this sort of like lightish pink, which is the fourth swatch from the left and the middle row. Very gently touching. See, I'm trying to be closer to the edge because I know that the almost black background is going to be there eventually. So I really kind of want my robin to stand out because he's the main character of my illustration. And I'm just going to maybe keep the blending mode normal and reduce the opacity of the layer to around 66. All right, quite like that. And now I'm going to speed it up for you because I'm going to just add deeper colors here and there on the rest of my robin, and you just experiment yourself with different colors and blending modes. Right, so I've added a little bit of color enhancement here and there, and this time I'm going to just show you how I usually outline my character's eyes. So I'm going to use the winter spice brush. I'm going to probably increase the opacity to 40% and reduce the size. Yeah, even like to around 8%. And I'm just going to gently, with like scribble motions, I'm gonna add like the darker type of lid to my character's eye. You see, it's on the one hand, it's outlining. On the other hand, I'm just creating a little bit of a lid so that the stroke is slightly thicker on top of the eye. You can add eyelashes if you wish. So in my case, in this case, I'm not going to add any eyelashes, maybe just a tiny bit in the bottom, but only a tiny bit. We don't want our robin to look like the 80s rock star. And you can also add an outline to the iris if you wish so. Not a must. Can leave it flat. And you can even, if you wish so, you can add a pupil, but smudge. I'm just going to leave it the way it is right now. And the next step is going to be adding darker details. See, like the more you elaborate on your illustration, as always, the more finished, the more interesting it looks, and the more interesting it is to kind of like examine it, you know, like explore it, look around. So what I'm gonna do, let's go back to our robin's body and see, do we need any darker details there? I think we'll add some scratches in the end, imitating sort of like feather fluff. And same about the robin's breast. However, I'm going to add a little bit of darker details here and there, particularly on the tail and on the wing. So let's start with the tail. So I would like to add a little bit of a darker edge behind these brown long feathers. So let's see. So our brown feathers layer is here. So I'm going to create a layer underneath. And I'm going to change it straight away to multiply mode because I want it to be definitely darker than those feathers. The brush I'm going to use is Caramel Sketcher, which comes in your mini set, or if you've got the full set, it's in the main set of your brushes. And I'm going to increase the size to 100%, opacity maybe around 50%. And let's see. And I'm just going to pressing hard. I'm going to outline. So you see, I can immediately tell that I need to increase the opacity because I don't want to make a hole in my iPad trying to make this line visible. So I'm just going to outline. See, around this feather. Because I really don't want a realistic feel to my illustration. I wanted to make festive. So, and let's add a little bit of darker outline to our pinkish, like shortest feathers. And we have it here, but this time I want this outline a little bit like more on top of the feathers, so I'm going to create a clipping mask on top of this pink feathers, and I'm going to change the blending mode straight away to multiply, and with the same Caramel Sketcher, and let's use the same pink that we used for the feathers, but obviously it's going to be darker because it's multiply mode. Let's just, with gentle strokes, create this sort of like feather outlines, almost quite delicate, almost like little scribbles. Yeah, I'm quite happy with the tail at the moment, and let's work a little bit on the wing. So I'm going to leave this area, the darker area, and in a moment you will understand why. But on this, I want to add just a tiny outline underneath this darker sort of like flower shape, this one. So I'm just going to add a new layer, change the blending mode to multiply. And with this darker ochre, let's just second swatch from the left. I'm just going to add just a little bit of a sketch. See, same petal-like shapes, nothing complicated, just literally for the sake of adding a little bit more details. And I'm also right in the same layer, with the same brush, with the same color, with the same blending mode. I'm just going to add a little bit of an outline to these shorter feathers. And no, I'm not going to overdo that. I'm quite happy. And the final detail I would like to add is on the beak. I can even do it on the layer we did the outline of the eye with caramel sketcher with darker ochre swatch that we've just used on the wing, this one. I'm just going to reduce the size a little bit. And just scribble a little bit. Imagine like you would do with a colored pencil on the paper, maybe sometimes increasing the pressure. So that's all. That's all I'm going to do in terms of adding details with a caramel sketcher. Next step is we're going to add some fancy touches to our robin because it's a festive robin. It's a very special one. And of course, I can't help using folk art details in my illustrations. So for that reason, I've created this lovely brush, which is included in your mini set. It's called Sugar Dots. And it's whatever it is what it says it is. It's dots. It's a border brush which creates like a dotted line, and each dot is very sort of like textured and semi-opaque. So I'm really hoping you will enjoy using it as much as I do. And I'm going to show you how I use it in my illustrations, and it's very, very versatile. That's the reason I included it in the mini set. That's probably one of the most versatile borders in the set. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to be creating any more clipping mask because it's already getting just a little bit crowded. So I'm going to create a new layer. We'll have two layers, one for darker details and one for lighter details. So for darker details, let's change the blending mode to linear burn, and using Sugar Dots brush, let's start with the tail. I would like to add like darker dotted border to the very edge of the tail. And for that, I'm going to use this deep red color. And let's see. So this deep red color in the linear burn mode looks black. So let's try and change. Oh, look, darken. Perfect. I'm going to clear it because that's obviously too big. So I'm going to reduce the size to 10%. And the opacity 100%, and I'm going to just outline the edge of my bird's tails, like the longest feathers, with this lovely sugar dot border. I would also like to add some darker dots around this pink feathers. So I'm going to change the color to this, probably this one, like this dusty pink. And let's increase the size of the brush a little bit, and let's just outline, maybe even more. And let's outline the dots here. They're barely visible, but I don't mind because it's just showing you another way of using them. See, just delicate way. Let's change the color to like this darker brown color in the middle of the second row. Let's reduce the opacity to 7%, or not opacity, size to 7%. And I want to outline this middle part. So like changing the size of the dots creates different effect. So now I would like to add a little bit of decorative detail on the wing. So I'm going to use this, probably this deeper red color again. And let's add some lovely details. And I would say that's probably enough for the darker details. Let's just clean it up just a tiny bit here and there. And now I'm going to add lighter details. So for that, I'm going to create a new layer, and the blending mode, it's going to be normal. And with the same Sugar Dots brush, let's experiment with different colors. So I'm going to use, I'm going to choose this color, but I think it's going to be probably too dark. So I'm going to use whiter color. Let's add it to your palette as well. And at full opacity, let's just create whiter borders. Yeah, so let's add a little bit of lighter border around these feathers. See, that's why I literally don't set myself any limits, like, oh, that's enough, that's enough. No, that's not enough, that's never enough. Let's add a little bit on the robin. Let's see. Yeah, I think we just increase the size and using this lighter ochre. Let's add the sugar dot outline to the robin's breast, which I think is a very nice touch. And maybe, just maybe, this is enough of the sugar dots. And we are almost done with the robin. So the very last thing that I usually do with all my illustrations is I'm just going to add a little bit of scratching here and there. Again, same pattern, dark scratches plus white scratches, white light. So I'm going to change the blending mode to multiply, knowing that it's going to be darker. With Caramel Sketcher, I'm going to increase the opacity to 100%, but I'm going to reduce the size to around 15% just to make it really delicate. The color I'm going to choose is this cocoa brown color in the top row in the middle. And let's see what it's going to give us. Yeah, hopefully you can see. See, I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to add scratches, darker scratches to my robin. Let's add a little bit of lighter scribbles. So I'm going to create a new layer, and with normal blending mode, I'm just going to change the color to something lighter, probably this one, this pink. And let's increase the opacity, increase the size, and I'm just going to add a little bit of lighter scribbles here and there. So, and that's our robin done. The next step will be to add the background to our bird. What I would recommend flattening the robin, so because there are way too many layers. And as I always say, only flatten it if you are absolutely sure that you're not going to be changing anything. Particularly when it comes to personal projects, I flatten like without even hesitation, just in case I want to go back and change something, just to prevent myself from doing that. However, if it's a client work, if it's a commission piece, I highly recommend that you back up all your layers in case your client tells you, like, you know, I don't want this feathers pink, I want them black on the contrary. So you can easily go and change that very layer, leaving the rest intact. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my gallery, I'm going to select my artwork, my canvas, and I'm going to duplicate it. In this case, I've got the backup, and I'm gonna add all the layers to the group, and I'm gonna flatten it. So now my whole robin is on one layer, and it's much more manageable right now. So next step, I'm gonna add a circle for the background, just to make my robin stand out even better. So I'm gonna create a new layer underneath the robin layer. I'm gonna grab the Twig Dance brush, which is in your mini set, or if you've got the whole set, it's in your main set. And the color I'm going to use is this deep navy color, which is the second swatch in the top row from the left. And let's see, that's the type of the brush we're going to use. It's almost black, which I really like, with this shade of blue. And let's create a circle. So how I usually do that? So I'm going to create a circle, and without lifting the pencil off the canvas, I'm just gonna make sure that my circle is more or less even, and then I go to ellipse option that appears on top, and I'm gonna choose circle, so it's more like circular, and that's it. I'm quite happy with that. And I'm gonna switch my robin off, and with the same Twig Dance brush, I'm just gonna color it in. I encourage you to experiment with different sizes of circles, because for me there is no really rule. It can be smaller just for the robin to sort of like stand out better. I would probably say that for my card I would use that type of circle. And basically that's our background ready, which we're gonna now decorate. That's probably one of the fun parts. We're going to be adding different effects and stamps to our robin. See also, try and experiment with the placement of your robin, because see, like if you want it to look a little bit more prominent, I would use, like, I would move it against the darker background, so it's kind of like more obviously visible. Now, let's create a new layer underneath our background layer. You can use it as clipping mask, however, you don't have to. But I'm gonna start with adding some nice snowflakes. For that, I'm gonna use the brush called Golden Snowflakes, which comes in the free mini set. And if you have the main set, the big set with the big collection, it comes in Sparkle and Glitter set. And the color I'm going to use, because it's quite a delicate brush, I'm going to just use this lighter ochre color. Yeah. You can make it a little bit more yellow if you wish. So if you're in the classic view of the palette, you just can move this sort of setting to slightly more yellowish. I'm just going to pop this color right here for you in case you need it. And what I'm going to do, see, every time I stamp, it creates a different size of the snowflakes, which I think is quite cute. And I'm just going to add an odd snowflake here and there. Yeah. You can create a new layer and experiment with like different sizes. See, like if I stamp a little bit harder, it's going to be more visible. And I'm gonna add a new layer, and the other brush I would like to use here is called Subtle Shimmer, and with the same yellowish color I'm just gonna scribble here and there, like giving this gold shimmer effect. Subtle Shimmer, if you have the full set of Winter Imaginarium, you can find it in Sparkle and Glitter set. So you see, it's kind of like almost like snow flurry, which is quite nice. So all I'm gonna add in terms of the background, and now I'm gonna add a few stamps just to make it extra special. I'm going to create a new layer, and every stamp is going to be on a new layer, just so I can play around with the colors, with not with the colors, with the size of it. So first of all, I would like to add this alder twig stamp. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take like whitish color, and I'm just gonna stamp it like this. I'm gonna keep the robin layer on because obviously it's a part of the composition, and I would like to see how it all works together. And I'm gonna increase the size of this stamp, and just to create this sort of like illusion of a robin sitting maybe on the stamp, just like that. Experiment with the opacity. Maybe I'll reduce the opacity just a tiny bit. Creating a new layer. Next stamp I'm gonna add is conifer one. If you're using the full set, they will be in big stamps collection. So I'm gonna stamp it here, and I'm gonna probably increase the size of it, and I think I'm gonna flip it horizontal so it kind of goes around like a little wreath around my background layer. And I'm just gonna add it here like so, and maybe I'm just gonna again reduce the opacity a tiny bit. And finally, I feel like I need to add something on top. So on a new layer, I'm gonna grab the brush called Rosemary 1. It's like a rosemary twig. I'm gonna stamp it, and I'm gonna increase the size of it. I'm not worried about the sort of like loss of quality because it's just details, and especially I'm gonna reduce the opacity of them. So they're quite delicate anyway. So kind of just trying to experiment with different positioning. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that, and I'm gonna just reduce the opacity a tiny bit. So yeah, guys, I'm quite happy with that. We are almost there. It's pretty much it. And in the next step, let's add the text to our card. Now let's add the text to our illustration. So I'm just gonna add everything I've created in the separate group so I can easily move it around. Just be careful that you don't place your illustration like that, because Procreate automatically will cut everything to the border of the canvas. So at the moment I'm just gonna add it a little bit higher up, because I'll just readjust it later, because here I'm just gonna add my text. I'm gonna add is Noel. I'm sorry for mispronunciation. It's a French word for Christmas, and it's widely used in different Christmas cards, and it's quite a like stylish word to add, if you know what I mean. It's also a very special word because one of the letters, there is no letter like that in the English alphabet. So I'm going to show you the little trick how to add this character that doesn't exist in your keyboard. But if it does, it's even better. You can just type it. So what we're going to do now in this step, we're going to click this range icon. In the menu Add, we're going to click Add Text. And we immediately have text appearing here. And we want the word Noel with that special character. So what I usually do when I don't have special character, I find the word somewhere, see, in Wikipedia, in Wiktionary, and I'm going to copy it. And going back to my Procreate, I'm going to paste it. Allow paste, see, and it magically pastes the word. And let's work with our text. So we'll probably place our text here. If we click on one of the options, we will have this sort of panel option that allows you to work with the text. So we need to make absolutely sure that we do the right thing with it before we rasterize that layer. And I've got a lot of fonts added that I use in my illustrations, that I use in my social media. So feel free to use your own font. But in case you don't have any fonts or you don't want to use it, I suggest that you use Times New Roman, which is a serif font, and it's quite nice looking, quite solid. And in my case, I'm gonna make all the letters capital. It's this V option here. Let's see. I'm gonna increase the size, and I'm gonna probably increase the distance between the letters, just like so. And I'm gonna place maybe slightly tighter. Let's try in bold. Sometimes in bold it might work, but I'll probably keep it regular size, regular option, maybe just even tighter. Yeah, quite happy with that. And I'm gonna place my text somewhere here, especially if, remember, if you're gonna send your card to the printer, you probably will want the text away from the edges of the card. You know, like, guys, really quick fix. I think my Robin's eye looks a little bit red, like maybe he looks like he celebrated a little bit too much. So I'm gonna grab my Winter Spice brush, and I'm just gonna add a little bit more white color to the eye. Even just a tiny bit of white makes the eye better, like brighter looking. Yeah, I like this better. It was a little bit too pink. The Robin looked a little bit too tired. So yeah, just like that. That's it. Done with the Robin. So text, back to the text. Once you're absolutely happy with the font choice, with the word, because maybe you don't want that word, you want the word Christmas or Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays or whatever. But once you are sure that it's been done, I would click on the layer with the word, and I would click rasterize. And the layer basically becomes pixels. Before I did that, what I should have done, I would change the color of the text. For that, I'm just going to use this darker color, and I'm going to rasterize this layer. And let's play around, experiment with blending mode, see it can be. So I'm going to change the blending mode to pin light, because it kind of makes the letters more blue rather than black. And the reason why I rasterize it, there are different multiple ways to deal with it, but the way I prefer to do it, because I just want to add a little bit of texture, like distressed texture with Twig Dance brush. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to choose the eraser tool. I'm going to use Twig Dance brush. I'm going to reduce the opacity to around 30% and increase the size to 100%. And with stamp motions, I'm just going to stamp, you see, with the eraser on the letters, just to make them a little bit more distressed. See, you can see that I'm adding some nice texture to it. And that's pretty much it. That's all I'm going to use with this particular layer. And let's adjust our Robin now. I think I'm just going to almost set it on top of this word. Just making sure it's more or less in the middle. And our card is almost ready. We're just going to add a couple of finishing touches. So by finishing touches, I mean we'll just add a little bit more stamps. For that, I'm going to create a new layer. Each stamp I personally put on a new layer in case I want to change the position or scale of it. And first of all, I'm going to add a couple of stamps to the robin randomly. And the first one I'm going to use is Winter Swirls 3. If you've got the full set, it's going to be in the big stamps group. And the color I'm going to use is whitish, this whitish color. And I'm just going to put a stamp on my robin. And I'm going to just change the position. Let's play around with the positioning of it. I've just flipped it horizontal. Yeah, I think that adds this kind of lovely finishing touch. You can play around with blending modes. Some of them can be quite interesting. You see, soft light is quite delicate, and some of them change color, which I personally don't want to happen. Yeah, I think I'm just going to keep it normal, maybe slightly reduce the opacity so it's more sort of a blending in the whole composition. And I'm going to add another one maybe on the tail. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to use the brush called Winter Swirls 2, and I'm just going to stamp it here because I kind of felt that the tail needs something like this. And finally, I'm gonna add a few stamps on the letters just to make them a tiny bit more special. So what I'm gonna do, each letter will have its own stamp. So for the letter N, I'm gonna add Winter Swirls 3 with the same color, with the full opacity and large, like maximum size. I'm gonna stamp the swirl, and I'm just gonna play around with the positioning it. See, kind of like overlap the letter nicely, quite like that. You can leave it like this. I really like it, you know, it gives this like interesting effect. However, play around with blending modes, with opacity, just to see how it looks, you know. What you prefer. I like it in normal blending mode with slightly reduced opacity to around 80%. Right, on a new layer for the letter O, I'm gonna add this viburnum. Basically, the trick with those, not trick, but the tip is to make them like part of the letter's curves. So because you can always kind of do that, but I quite like this decorative effect. When you make them run, repeat the curve like that. I think this is quite interesting. So like, see yourself play around with different positioning of the brushes. It's quite nice like that. Or if you prefer, like run it around the side curve of our O, which is nice as well. For the letter, this one, which I don't know how to pronounce, we're gonna use the brush called Winter Swirls 2. We stamp it, and I'm just gonna run it alongside sort of like this vertical bar. And look what you can do here. The trick that you can erase, take the eraser tool Winter Spice, and you can erase parts of the brush, like making it look like it's sort of overlapping. So for example, I'm going to delete this, the very end, like it's going behind the letter. And I'm going to erase this part. So see, here is the effect that it's like climbing like a vine, and maybe even here. See, like it's overlapping. And finally, for the letter L, let's give it this conifer one stamp. And I'm just gonna let it run alongside this maybe vertical part of letter L. And I'm just gonna erase this, the end bit, just like it goes behind the letter L. So that's it. So our card is ready. You can flatten it if you wish so, but in the next step I'm going to show you how to prepare it for print and how to print it and the final finishing touches of it. Now, if you decide to print your card at home yourself, I'm going to show you the way I do it. I'm sure there are other ways, and by the way, if you know them, how to print from Procreate, let me know in the comments. But I'm just going to show you the way that works for me. However, if you're going to print with a professional printer, you can save, you can export this file as a PDF in accordance with the requirements of the printer. So what we're going to do, I'm going to, first of all, first step is if you click on this range icon and click share and choose JPEG and save image. What it does, it saves your card as a flat layer, as a JPEG, flattened JPEG, in your photos on your iPad. The reason why I did that is because my printer, it only prints A4 papers, so I need to somehow adjust my A5 card on an A4 paper with as fewer cuts I will need to done after it's been printed as possible. If I print it straight like that, it probably will take the whole area of the A4 paper, and if that's what you want, go for it, but that's definitely not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to print an A5, which is exactly 50% or half of an A4. So the next step is I'm going to create a new canvas in Procreate, and I'm going to choose A4 option. And you can actually turn your iPad like this in a landscape position. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on this range icon, I'm going to click add, and I'm going to choose insert a photo, because in the previous step I saved my Robin picture in the photos of my iPad. And I'm just going to select it. And you see it automatically drops it on my canvas. So you can leave it like this. So technically it should print the card in the printer looking like this, but I just to save a little bit of my paper, I'm just going to push it to the very edge, so you see it takes like exactly half. Another trick, again, depending on the printer, depending on the ink you use, obviously colors and levels of light can come out really differently. So I find that my printer prints like deep colors a little bit too dark. I'm gonna make my picture, my card, lighter. Another trick, if you print at home, first use the normal printer paper, like cheaper cartridge paper, just to check how the color is going to come out. If you are happy with the intensity, with the depth of your colors, just take the card paper or whatever paper. Like probably card paper is more expensive, so you don't want to waste it right away. So once you're happy with the way it comes out in your printer, just use the more expensive card. I know my printer, so I'm definitely gonna make this picture lighter because it's gonna be too dark. For that, I might just create a backup, duplicate this layer, switch one of the layers off, and I'm gonna try and adjust levels of brightness a little bit. And for that, I'm gonna use curves. So you see this sort of like curves interface pops up, and I'm just gonna drag this handle. See, this one makes it darker. I, on the contrary, want it lighter, so that's why I'm just gonna drag this handle up like this. And see, like if I drag this curve up and down, it also increases like levels of brightness. So I'm just gonna slightly adjust it, just moving it a little bit up. And I'm gonna just move this around. I think I'll leave this one exactly as it was before. And I think that's, so just for you to compare, if I switch this level off, this immediately looks too dark and this looks much brighter. And now I'm gonna click on the range icon, I'm gonna click share, and I'm gonna save it again as a JPEG in my photos in my iPad. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to my photos, I'm gonna select the file I've just saved, and you see this little icon, I'm gonna click it, and I'm gonna choose print option. So I'm going to make sure that my iPad finds my printer, which it does. I'm going to make sure that all the presets and all the properties are set correctly. Paper size A4, because we know that it's going to print on an A4 paper. Copies 1, media and quality best, and select print. And let's see what's going to happen. Now my card is printed. It's not obviously the thickest card, and it doesn't really look too professional, but just to pop it in a Christmas gift or a birthday gift bag for your friends or family, especially like knowing that you created it yourself, might be really, really nice. However, if you print on professional printer, as I said, you probably will choose like thicker paper card. So my printer printed it with a little bit of a whiter border outside, which is not a problem because I'm just gonna cut it off. And you can use scissors to cut the card out of your A4 paper. But I prefer using this tool, which is, I think it's called guillotine, and I'm just gonna chop the edges of my card, like the white edges that I don't really need, just like that. See, I can save this part for, it's actually really good paper to use for colored pencil swatches, which I probably will use it for a little bit later. And I'm just going to chop off the much it. What I sometimes do as well is I use this little tool. It's like a little cutter for corners. See, like it shows the size of the corners you can cut for your card. So I think I'm going to just make the rounded corners of 10 millimeters of my card, just to make it slightly more special, slightly sort of less amateur. See, it just bites the corners out, creating rounded corners. So just making sure that it's properly in. And just gonna do that. So that's it. That's my card ready. So I might just write something nice here. I can see that there is just a little bit frayed, so I'm just gonna probably cut this top bit with scissors so it just looks a little bit more tidy. Yeah, so, and that's basically it. That's our card ready.